Harvard, Yale, Columbia. Wesley Zoe shows us the rejection letters that ended his Ivy League dream.
I'm a straight A student, 4.0 GPA, 4.68 weighted GPA.
Did you get into any Ivy League schools?
I did not.
Well, my life story is very much like the American dream, a son of immigrants. And I did benefit from affirmative action programs for the longest time. But as I went through college, I realized there was a big problem. My Asian girlfriend, who grew up in the same block practically as I did, was flatly ineligible for any of the programs. And I couldn't live with that, the injustice of it, and also the stigma. I was wondering, can I make it on my own? And I wanted to be able to break free of that stigma. So when I applied to Harvard Law School, I did not check the box. And I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Now, a person's background, a person's history is important, but we got to be measured as individuals, not as check boxes, right? This is this club that Harvard set up that was exclusionary. And let's remember who lost the most under the old system. It was Asian Americans. They were capped at around 20%, a hard cap. And now Harvard is trying to get rid of use of the SAT. Why? Because Asian Americans tend to do quite well on standardized tests. You could be rich, have every door open to you, and be African American. You could be poor and white and suffer tons of discrimination. You could have a disability. It's a matter of a person's ability to overcome obstacles that should be taken into account. And legacy admissions, I think, are a bad idea. And Harvard, if it really wanted diversity, it could start with intellectual diversity. Only 8% of its incoming students are conservative. That needs to change. There is no endpoint under the critical race theory model. And that means you trap minorities at the bottom because you're telling them you cannot, on your own, make it. And that message is just wrong.
Coming up, there's mixed reaction among the Asian American community following the Supreme Court ruling this week on affirmative action. We'll discuss.
It's important to note that there is no evidence of discrimination against Asian Americans at Harvard or that Asian Americans had lower admissions because of affirmative action. After weighing the evidence presented, the district court judge found no evidence of discrimination.
Okay.
Moreover, a significant majority. Go ahead.
Sorry, so you say no evidence, Kenny. I'm sure you beg to differ.
Definitely there is evidence. If you look at the data, an Asian American with, at the top academic decile of on the academic rating has a lower chance of getting admitted to Harvard than a Black American at the 4th lowest decile, and a Hispanic at the 6th lowest, and a white person at the 9th lowest. So there is discrimination, and it is heterogeneous. No, I think affirmative action has hurt Asian Americans in general, because here's why. You see what Harvard did with the personality score. When Asian Americans applied to Harvard, Harvard utilized this personality score to rate Asian Americans lowest among all of the races. They had the highest academic ratings, the highest extracurricular ratings, highest teacher recommendations, second highest counselor recommendations, and Harvard rated them lowest on the personality score. That's inexcusable. Those things are correlated with strong personalities. Those things are correlated with self-determination, independence, hard work, self-discipline. Why can't Harvard see past that? Instead, they just see test-taking robots with no personality. That's why I believe that this ruling was important to stand up for the dignity of Asian Americans. That is precisely what I'm saying. I'm saying there is systemic racism against Asians in the college admissions level. And by the way, there's racism against Black Americans at the college admissions level. Look at the way that Harvard patronized Black Americans. They lowered their standards in terms of their SAT, in terms of recruitment letters to Black Americans, in terms of their admissions rates to Black Americans. They didn't want Black Americans for their individuality. They wanted Black Americans because they were Black.
I always find it ironic that the people who say that people are only, admitted because they're Black are usually the ones who, they're the ones creating the kind of victimhood mentality for Black people. I'm not sure the Black people who benefit from affirmative action would see it that way otherwise, but
we should be treated on the basis of our merits. We should be treated on the basis of how hard we work, our study, our SAT scores, our grades.